This is Paul Hemphill, Chairman of the American Education Defenders. And we are going to do a short interview. And we're pleased to have Paul as our guest for this podcast. Paul is the author of 5 books, the producer of 200 videos, and is the narrator of 3 of his books. His latest book, entitled Inspiration for Teens, has been a bestseller for the past 12 months and shot up to the #1 position in its category when the issue of critical race theory was in the news. And boy, has it been in the news. Welcome, Paul. How are you today?
Very well, thank you. I'm pleased to be on, Kathy. Thank you for inviting me.
Wonderful. Well, let's get into it. Gettysburg and the Lincoln's immortal Gettysburg Address remind us of the need to unite and move forward together to preserve our democracy, correct?
Yes, and in fact, in the address, Kathy, Lincoln tells us what the purpose of America is. You'd be hard-pressed to find the answer from any average American, but Lincoln reminds us of our purpose by saying in the Gettysburg Address these very simple words. 77 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Lincoln says we are a nation dedicated to a proposition. And what's a proposition? It's a statement that has to be proven. So our purpose, says Lincoln, is to prove the proposition that we are equal to each other, which means we should treat each other equally all the time.
Exactly. The term wokeness, woke or wokeism, seems to be having an effect on our national discourse and how we talk about issues. Is it something we ought to be concerned about?
You know, Lincoln once said that the United States is the last best hope of Earth, and he knew why. Our ability to be a free people, I believe, acts like a magnet for all humanity to come here. That's why we see immigrants coming here in droves. But something is happening in our culture that we as a nation have never seen before, and it's called wokeness or wokeism, whatever you want to. And they say that to be woke is to believe that the only truth is my truth and yours isn't truth at all. Wokeness is, I like to say, is corporate self-righteousness that masquerades as being enlightened. That if you don't believe as we do, then you're a racist, and we're not. You deserve to be canceled and ignored. Major corporations like Coca-Cola and Apple, Delta are saying that we're not just in business for profit, but to make this a better world through diversity and perspectives, not a diversity of perspectives. So corporations are now emboldened to tell us how we should live. I mean, the arrogance is astounding. So instead of every American having an equal voice in his or her own affairs, a small group of corporations are telling us that they are now in charge and they will hand down the 10 commandments of whatever social values they choose for all of us to live by. And that means that our Bill of Rights are meaningless. I think our founding principles of freedom and self-determination are no longer valid to the woke corporations. It's whatever they decide. And that means we're in real trouble. Now, the other side of that is that the word is out that these corporations really don't believe in this wokeness stuff. They're just going along with it because they want to make a profit. They don't want to lose a nickel with any public relations strategies or no strategies. And somehow it's going to end. And how it's going to end should be interesting.
So how do you see us getting out of a woke culture?
I think the answer, Kathy, is really simple, and so simple that it's hidden in plain sight. I think it starts at your local school board meetings and town meetings. As the left likes to say, at the grassroots. I see on TV almost every night parents in these little towns, in every little town and city in America. These people need to show up at the school board meetings and their town meetings in overwhelming numbers and let your voice be heard. I don't think we can any longer assume that the school board has the best intentions of our kids at heart. We can't assume that our local townships will have our best interests in mind with a new tax here and there. And the challenge with that posture is try to find a multimillionaire who is brave enough to speak up. So if we protest as a group and act as a group, like the new Tea Party, if you will, I think this wokeness nonsense will stop. Just my opinion.
It's a good opinion. It's a great opinion.
Thank you.
You're welcome. How do you see your book and your videos as a counterbalance to critical race theory?
Well, you know, it's interesting. I never looked at my books or my videos as a counterbalance, but a lot of people think so because they think I wrote the book last week. And that's okay, because in a very special way, it is a counterbalance, which I think is why 4 weeks ago, the book actually hit the Amazon's #1 bestseller spot in its category. And that lasted for about 6 hours. Boy, was I thrilled for those 6 hours. And then it went way down to #2 for the next 2 days. And then it was back to #1 again for a full day. I mean, sales were good because the word was getting out. What a tremendous counterbalance. My program with books and the videos, they act like a super spreader of positive thinking for our kids. I think they elevate the self-esteem of all teens everywhere, which was the original design of the book in the first place. I mean, I wrote this thing a long time ago, several years ago. And by contrast, critical race theory, and that's all it is, a theory, acts as a negative drain on the emotions of our kids. And what parent wouldn't want to see my uplifting and positive videos to be shown to their children?
So, what is your opinion on how history is taught in our schools? And how is your approach better than the way it's being taught now?
Well, the way it's being taught now, and it's been this way for decades, it's based on what I like to call facts and stats, memorizations of facts and figures that kids really can't relate to because they have no emotional connection to it. And if you have no emotional connection to an event, then it's meaningless to you. Every year, our history teachers are producing history literacy rate at the rate of, ready for this, 88% of all high school seniors have no proficiency in American history. What that means is they don't know what to do with the information that they studied for the last quiz. And it's not uncommon to see kids online bragging about the fact they got an A on the last test, but they forgot everything that it was all about. And it's almost a pride thing that these kids have when it comes to basically thumbing their intellectual nose at the subject of history. And it's not their fault. It's not the fault of the teacher, ironically. Basically, it's the nature of the subject. I mean, I can get something out of English, I can get something out of math, I can get something out of science, but what do I do with the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor? I mean, what do I do with that information? I mean, there's no connection to it. And if I'm not connected, if I didn't have lunch with Abe Lincoln last week, history doesn't mean anything to me. So make it meaningful to me. And the way you make it meaningful is you tell stories. Wow, we all love stories. And as I like to say to the teachers, stop teaching history and instead start selling it. And the way you sell history is you tell stories. And then I go one step further. I tell the story, and then I say what lessons we can learn from those stories so that the kids can come away from exposure to that video and say, hey, I didn't know I could do this. I didn't know I had these kind of qualities. And what these qualities are is what we as humans have as part of our human nature. We have the ability to rise above the ordinary and make marvelous decisions and create beautiful structures and design and write beautiful books. And these are things that kids ought to be aware of. And they don't get that through their own history course, not at all. So if you can, if a teacher can recognize the fact that a student is like everybody else, when you walk into a supermarket and you're looking to buy something, you've already decided in your mind what it is you're going to buy based upon a simple question. What's in it for me if I buy this product? Well, what do you think your student is asking when they walk into your history class? Why should I study this history stuff? Okay, if you can't answer the question, they're not buying. So try to find a textbook, by the way, that will sell a student on why they should read history. I mean, I just saw something the other day that was just so pitiful. This teacher posted this question and said, how do you make kids study history? And the answer was, this was his answer, and everybody thought this was really cool. History is a study of the past so that we can cope with our present. Really? Well, what does that mean to a 16-year-old? Nothing. Doesn't mean anything. Sure. And it sure got a lot of history teachers excited. And these people were just missing the point. Pretty sad, actually. But anyway, I don't think the history teachers have any recourse anyway. They just don't know how to teach it.
Or maybe they just don't want to.
Or they don't want to. But if they learn how to teach it the way that I present it, it could be very exciting for the teacher. Wow, I can get something out of this too. Anyway.
So your program uses the Battle of Gettysburg as your template for teaching American history. Walk us through exactly how your program would work in the classroom. If a history teacher is teaching a course on, let's say, the Vietnam War.
Well, that's a great question. I always like to look at my program, which uses the Battle of Gettysburg, as you said, as an appetizer. In other words, I want the kids to come away from my videos that uses Gettysburg with the attitude, wow, this history stuff, this American history stuff is really cool. I mean, what else can I get out of this that's going to make me, get more excited about who I am? Because after all, the whole universe centers around me, right? I mean, everything is about me. So, yes. And so what a history teacher can do is use my appetizer, because the meal is American history. So you use Gettysburg as the appetizer, and how it develops into the meal is that a teacher can say, okay, we're going to study the Vietnam War next semester or this semester, and I'm going to assign each of you one book to read. That's the only book I want you to read for the entire semester. From that book, I want you to come up with 3 stories that you are going to relate to the class, so that the class can have a discussion on those 3 stories and to see if they're relevant to what it is we need to be relevant about. In other words, do these stories mean anything to us? What lessons do we learn from these stories? Now, if your three lessons, or let's say one of the 3 lessons is really relevant to the rest of the class, then what we will do is that we will go to the school's media department and we'll create a video on that story that you read and came up with and shared with the class. And so that now history becomes a very hands-on experience where the teacher gets involved with guiding the media department with how they want to do the video. The student gets excited with the fact that their story that they learned from this book is going to be made into video, and maybe she'll even narrate the video. I mean, this would be cool, wouldn't it? And so that's how I see history being taught in our schools, as a story life lesson exercise that the kids can really get involved in. Does that make sense?
Oh my gosh, yes. And when you get children involved in projects, you get
Yeah.
team building, you get a lot of other wonderful things that they will take away from that, and they will remember it. And that's really the best key, is remembering how things occurred and what they learned from it. So yes, I completely agree with you.
Exactly. I remember there was a professor out at the University of Southern California, Antonio Damasio. He said that when you present information in a whole new way, the kids' dopamine levels increase. And when the dopamine levels increase, they're able to remember information better. And yeah, you nailed it. You hit the nail on the head there.
They get very excited.
Yeah.
So, yes, yes. So what was your reasoning behind converting your book to a video series?
Well, I've learned over the years that our kids are reading less and less, and they're in front of their screens more and more. Before the pandemic, the average amount of time that a teenager was spending in front of a screen was like 7 hours a day. Now it's reached over 9 to 10 hours a day because of the pandemic. They spend more time at home and away from class and away from their fellow students, and they're much more isolated. And so they're very dependent upon the screen. And I decided, well, gee, if they're more digitally oriented, and that's the culture that we're in, a digital culture, then I cannot expect that kids are going to buy my book. The parents will buy my book. The parents will write the reviews. So I'll never get a review from a kid or a teenager. So the parents can buy the books all they want. Maybe they can use the book as something that they think they can bring to the dinner table if they actually even have dinner together.
Yeah.
Okay. But it's a great excuse to have dinner together, to maybe read a story, and discuss the implications of it. But kids will watch videos, they won't read the book. So I thought, if I'm going to reach these kids, Kathy, I've got to be where they are, and I've got to be on their screen, because they're not going to read my book. They just won't. So I'm a realist when it comes to that sort of thing. And so having converted, it took me about 2 years to convert the entire, well, I haven't converted the entire book. I've got 88 stories, but I've done about close to 60 videos already from the series. And so I'll be looking to raise some money to complete the series, and hopefully we can do that pretty soon.
Gosh, I hope so, because when I did listen to a few of your videos, your storytelling was very inspiring. I wanted to finish it. And I'm also one of those students of not paying attention too much to history. To me, it was boring.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Even now it is, even my own child, boring. And there's no incentive. If you don't read, just you throw up a movie, you throw something up, which my history teachers did, and that goes back many years.
Yeah.
The issue, you don't have any engagement, buy-in from the kids. So if you make it interesting and you relate these things to what's going on now, my goodness, a lot of this stuff that's going on right now in their classroom, with what you brought up, the critical race theory, I can't even express to you how important your videos are in today's society. Extremely important, extremely knowledgeable, and extremely well written and well said. I mean, your voice was actually very charming. Your voice was very engaging. So I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it very much.
How's this sound? Thank you very much. That was very nice for you to say that. Whenever I am asked to speak before a crowd, I always open up my statement with the following statement. I'm Tom Brokaw, NBC News, channeling Paul Hemphill.
And your kids will say, "Who is Tom Brokaw?"
Well, the kids don't. Yeah, that's great. The kids don't invite me. The Rotary clubs invite me.
Oh yeah, they're wonderful organizations.
Yeah, exactly. Wonderful. And so, but thank you for that. That's very, very helpful. And every once in a while, I like to hear those kind of comments because I know what the guy in the mirror is thinking about my stuff, but I already know what he's thinking, and so it's always nice to hear it from someone else. Thank you.
You're welcome. What was your, you discussed character, which is a large theme in your book.
Yeah.
From your book, can you give us an example of how a character is tested?
Yeah, there was a young man from Gettysburg who moved to Virginia before the war, and he joined the Southern Army and wound up back in Gettysburg to fight those people he grew up with. I mean, think of that as a moral dilemma. And think of the implications of that moral decision to fight against his neighbors from his childhood. But he did it because he believed in a cause of the Southern soldier, however he defined it. And it's not clear how he defined it. But he was committed to a set of values. And that commitment is what character is all about. It's said that letters and numbers are characters because they never change. Well, imagine then the dilemma of having your speeding tickets fixed by a police friend. You might say, well, that's not a big deal, but it is. You're actually telling yourself that you don't value honesty, that you're in no way committed to it, which makes it easy to ask that your speeding ticket be fixed. And why it's a big deal is because if you place no real value on honesty, what happens to your relationships when you willingly lie, cheat, or even steal? The end results for you, and when people catch on to your lack of honesty, what you got in front of you is rejection, isolation, and loneliness. And that's what happened to a guy at Gettysburg who was well known for lying and cheating. It's a hell of a price to pay. But this kid who came back to Gettysburg to fight with the Southern Army, unfortunately, he died on the second day of the battle. And friends of his couldn't understand why he would fight for the South when he was back home. But it can be assumed, we really don't know this for sure, but it can be assumed that he was committed to what the South was committed to, and that was it. He wasn't going to waver. Very admirable. Very admirable.
It's almost like where we are today.
Oh, there's no question about it. Yeah, it really is. It's a hell of a place to be.
It is. I completely agree with you. Your leadership skills are a valuable asset to everyone. Of course, that's the old adage, knowledge is power. What better way to instill a valuable lesson than learning and empowering yourself? Do you believe that you're certain that your creation gives a child, a teenager, empowerment to succeed?
Ironically, Kathy, the original title of my book was Why You're Already a Leader. Sales are not very good until two sisters from Pittsburgh contacted me and said that I had the wrong title and suggested a new one. Well, with the sales only being restricted to, management types and sales not being very good, I thought, well, why not? I'll give this a shot and find out what it is they have to say. And so anyone watching the video of Alex Hayes would discover that communicating positively and doing it often allows you to get to your goals faster. So what these two sisters came up with was inspiration for teens. And that's why I threw in that little story about Alex Hayes. Now, Ken Burns made famous a guy from Maine by the name of Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain, who during the battle shouted out one word, bayonets. And it was a signal of how easy we can succeed under the most stressful conditions. And his men charged forward by that one word towards victory for that afternoon. And when George Meade wins the Battle of Gettysburg, it signals that seeking the opinions of others can lead to a great success. And those are just three examples anyone can use to succeed in any endeavor. So the whole book is really about leadership, setting goals, what it takes to set those goals and to achieve them. And so being a leadership book is really germane to everything that I talk about in the book. I don't come out and tell you in every single story and lesson, I don't even use the word leadership. I let you assume, I allow you, the reader, to recognize that, okay, this is also part of what it means to be a leader. And everyone is, whether they know it or not. So,
Yeah, I think you just need to find it and pull it out of everyone.
yeah.
Leaders are very, very important now and in our future.
Well, I always like to say, Kathy, that one of the most effective leaders is a newborn.
Oh, yes.
And the mother is a very effective follower because she is responding to every single movement and sound that child is making, is leading her to respond. You see, that's why leadership is so inherent in our human nature. It's not something that's restrictive to business schools and military schools. We all have it. And I just bring it up. I just let everybody know that you're a leader too.
Oh, that was a beautiful analogy. I never thought about it that way. That was wonderful.
Thank you.
In your promotional videos, you say a child can save a life without really trying. Can you give me an example from your book that proves that statement?
Oh, I'd love to. I'd love to. It's one of my favorite little stories, actually. Usually when I'm in a classroom or if I'm asked to speak to a group of high school sophomores who are typically 15 years of age, when I get to the end of the story and with the very last line in the story, and I'll tell you what it is in a second or several seconds, you can see the jaws drop. I mean, it's a wonderful reaction. So here's a young girl at Gettysburg who's told by her mother, just as the battle is beginning, look, for safety reasons, honey, you've got to get down to your uncle's place. You're going to be safe there. You're going to be okay. So get down there now. So she goes running down towards the uncle's place. It's about a mile away. The closer she gets to the house, she notices that the window is open and she notices that something is being thrown out of the window. She doesn't know quite what it is yet because she's not close enough to recognize what's being thrown out the window. As she gets closer, she realizes these are body parts, arms, legs. They've just been sawed off by doctors who had no other recourse but to saw off these limbs from soldiers who were just wounded during the battle. Well, for the next 3 days, she is going from wounded soldier to wounded soldier with nothing more than a cup of water and listening to their aches and pains, not knowing what to say to them because of her youth. She has no idea what to say. But some of these men are looking up at her and thinking to themselves, gee, that's my sister, that's my wife, that's my mother up there. And because of her presence and because she's there to listen to what they have to say, some of these guys are able to cross what I like to call an emotional bridge of hope over which few of us adults could walk alone. So she's exercising a very powerful sense of leadership by leading these men across this bridge so that they're able to survive. And so what's the lesson from this story? The lesson is that even a child at the age of 15, which is what she was, even a child can save a life. Even a child can keep hope alive where there is none. And it's a powerful story. It's a very simple one. And when I tell the class and read the last line of the story, and it says, at the time of the battle, this young woman was only 15 years old. They go, oh my gosh. I mean, and they all get the sense that, gee, I can do that too. I mean, I could save a life and I'm only 15. And I say to these kids, what she exercised was the most powerful element of communication, listening. That's all she did. Wow. What a simple but powerful story. Right? And I'll listen.
That was a very compassionate story. I've got a tear in my eye. So I will have to say, I do recall you sending me a very short clip. And it was about a young woman going from soldier to soldier and just speaking and giving some water or
Yeah.
touching your hand to the forehead.
Yeah.
There's compassion and love there. And I imagine, just based on how the story was told, that it was very meaningful and important and a great lesson.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And you know, kids really get it. They really do. They just, it's just that it's so sad that they don't get it anywhere. And when I give it to them, as these kids in Norman, Oklahoma said to me several weeks ago, Mr. Hemphill, we have never seen anything like this. I mean, this is just really great stuff. And can you send us some more? And I said, of course, be happy to. So it's that kind of human connection that we're making with these videos that is, I think, filling a gap of human disconnectedness that these kids have already, as they are so isolated with their little screens, you know, in their rooms by themselves alone, and not having any desire to date on the weekends because they want to be in front of the screens. It's very sad, but given that, again, I have to be where they are. And if they can pick up on these life lessons and say to themselves, you know, this stuff really makes a lot of sense. I got to get out of here. I got to get out and see my friends. I got to communicate with them. I got to meet with them eye to eye and stop texting, you know. I guess that's the preacher in me. No, I'm not a preacher. I'm just so anyway, I love these kids. I mean, they're just so talented. They're so smart. I think we adults fail miserably in giving our kids the credit for being as smart as they really are if we just give them a friggin' chance.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I completely agree. We need to engage them on the level they're willing to commit to, and even a small little bit, just to get them engaged and then wanting more is, and it's going to take parents to get involved with them, even at a small level.
Yeah.
Extremely important. Extremely important.
No question. Yeah.
So do you have those? That concludes my questions. Did you have anything further you'd love to say? Or
yes, I right now I'm doing this all by myself, and I'm in the process of raising funds for a project that I need to finance. And the project basically is to hire 1 or 2 people who know how to market. People who can do social media marketing for me, keep the word out there consistent with what it is that I need to do. And what I need to do is to convince principals, teachers, and superintendents across the nation that here's a free video series that will elevate the self-esteem of your kids. And why wouldn't you take it if all you need to do is, you don't have to make it as a new course if you don't have room for a new course. Just set it up to run 1 video each morning, 5 days a week, before the very first bell rings for the first class, when the kids come in to the school that morning, and sit down in the homeroom for 15 minutes waiting for the first bell to ring. What better way to use that 15 minutes than to play one of these videos and do it every day for 10 to 13 weeks? Wow, how cool will that be? And the teachers don't have to teach anything. Nobody has to take any notes. Nobody has to be instructive. The teacher can just hit enter and walk out of the class if they want to. But the kids will be exposed to these videos something that's very positive, and they'll probably look at each other, and after maybe 2 or 3 times, maybe they'll come to school earlier than they normally do and say, hey, I got to watch this stuff. This stuff is really cool. So, but I need the financing to get the word out. And we're doing pretty well on the raising the money right now. We're about 65% of goal right now. And I like to reward people who donate whatever amount they want to donate. The minimum that I give back to them is a PDF file of my entire book. So you can have the electronic version of my book if all you do is just donate $5. Okay, so be my hero, and I would appreciate your donation more than I can express.
Now, I understand exactly how difficult that is, but it's also very important, and it's for the right causes. I don't know whether you want to discuss a possibility for you in regards to your search for a marketing person, but you may want to engage with your local high school or college. They are always looking for work credit, and they will donate their time. And they already are in school, so they may be the greatest avenue for you. I used to do a lot of this when I had my own company for 20 years. We engaged with a lot of the college students that have, of course, college credit. They need it. So it's important, and you've got colleges there. High school also. High school, they need that too to graduate, extra points. And especially now with COVID, they need that extra credit. So it may be a way of you getting your material in the classroom without putting out any money, and you just need to sign a piece of paper that the person that you have engaged with as far as marketing is concerned, or whatever you'd like to call it, had performed so many hours. And that's all it is. It's very, very simple. And it's been going on for years. So you may want to take that idea. And of course,
I like that. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
It does for what you're doing, especially when you get with your educators. So it's a thought. I have a few more that we can discuss offline.
That'd be good. Yeah.
Yeah, that is an easy one, super easy. So I've really, really enjoyed being your friend and enjoying your books, your videos.
Thank you.
Just your friendship. You mean a great deal to me. You're a veteran, and that is enough for me. So anything I can ever do for you, I will do. I will put your information on.
I appreciate that. I really appreciate that so much. I really do.
It's important to me because you're important, and what you're doing for our children is important. So I think that's what we need to do now. And I think it's important that we stop looking at ourselves as, we need to feed the beast, and instead support our families, our friends, our neighbors, other patriots. So I'm very, very impressed. And I'm so happy to have you as one of my very first interviews.
Thank you.
A wonderful, wonderful series.
Well, I hope I've launched your ship, so to speak.
You have, just being here. So,
well, it's interesting. Speaking of ship, as a veteran, I've been invited to sail on the USS Constitution this Friday.
Oh my goodness.
Other veterans are being, this is strictly a veterans affair. And I was notified a couple of months ago, would you like to go on? We're inviting all these Vietnam veterans to sail on this ship. Would you like to go? No, I have no interest in going. No, of course I want to go. What a dumb question. You have any more dumb questions you want to ask?
You're so funny.
and so it was, I'm just looking so forward to it. In fact, just before I got on this, on your podcast, Kathy, I got a phone call from my brother-in-law, who's also a Vietnam veteran, and he's just all excited about the prospect of going. And I said, "Oh, don't worry, I'm coming. I'm still coming." He was wondering if I was going to change my mind. I said, "Dave, ask me another dumb question. Will you? Come on." "No, of course I have." So yeah, I'm going to be there.
Well,
Sure.
you send me some photos and I'll post them up. And of course, I will continue to broadcast, obviously, our podcast, but also your inspiration to kids and teens and teachers. I belong to several teachers groups, and they are on the conservative side. And
Oh,
they believe,
nice. Nice.
they believe, yes, they believe in our Constitution, our history of where we have been and where we don't need to go back to.
Right.
So
And
it's important.
I would say, Kathy, that the best thing you could do for them, I really believe this because I set it up this way, is they can go to my website, which is gettysburglessons.com. That's gettysburglessons.com. And at the near the bottom of that page, they can just sign up for my entire video series, no charge. They can run it, use it any way they want. And one of the things I would appreciate if they have the will to do it is that I would love to do a Zoom call with the teacher and their students so that they get a chance to actually interact with the author and the narrator, the guy they listen to all the time. I guess the one thing that I always like to reference is Lincoln's definition, or Lincoln's definition of how we ought to define ourselves, what our mission is. Like a company, if a company doesn't have a mission, it doesn't have anything really to offer. But he's saying that our mission is to dedicate ourselves to being as equal as we can to each other, treating each other equally. We're not going to be perfect. We never will be. But if we can dedicate ourselves to act and to think in that direction of being better persons and better people, we're going to survive. We're going to be fine. So I'm impressed with Lincoln's ability to look at Jefferson's words and say, this is what we're all about: dedication to a principle. So thank you.
Our founding fathers,
yeah,
really had it right.
Oh God, did they ever? What geniuses. And you know, one of the things, just to close out, somebody was saying the other day, I had suggested that the only leader that we really have available in this country today is a private citizen in Florida, and I think we know who he is.
Yes.
And if he would do what John Quincy Adams did, who was president of the United States, did not get reelected, went back in to be a congressman, and he was very, very effective as a congressman. And that's something that Donald Trump could do and easily win the next presidency by a landslide. So
I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah.
I just want to see his mug up on my screen, and I don't care how he gets there.
Yeah,
he's got to take out to do it.
Yeah.
He is exactly what we need as a leader, because that's exactly what he is.
We couldn't have him at a more incredible time.
Yes.
And he's just being forced to sit there and do nothing. God.
I don't really believe that's completely true.
Really?
Yes. He's a faithful warrior, and he can't and probably will not just sit back and watch this all happen. I don't believe that is true. But
okay.
I'm assuming that we will see him very shortly, extremely shortly. Not, these dates that people throw around are silly, but there are a few more things that has to occur.
Okay.
Red October, an interesting date on 11/11. There are a few things that have to happen And I think he will be inserted into our world, or into our United States of America. He will save America, because we are America first. And I
Yeah,
think with
exactly.
this Afghanistan thing,
Ah,
we need our Americans to come first
yeah,
now. So I think there's going to be some interesting things to look forward to. But honestly, I don't know what they're going to do with the supply shortages. There is already a container ship in China that was on its way here, and they've stopped it. So I'm not sure what's going on there, but it's still sitting in port. And they've shut down the entire, I don't know what they call those places that have those ships with the cargo on
yeah.
it. But they shut down the entire company. So the port is closed.
Wow.
So we'll see what's going to happen, but protect
Okay.
yourselves, take care of yourselves, and let's all work together and we'll be fine. We will
We'll do
be
it.
fine.
We'll do it. We'll do it. We'll do
All
it.
right. All right. All
Thank
right,
you.
my friend.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.